Hey, yo, welcome back to Right at the Wire. Well, as part of our Breeders' Cup Division Series, today we're going to be looking at the Distaff. And now that the pre-entries have been selected, we will update you on the ones we haven't covered. I'll have a special posting on that once we conclude the divisions. But from now on, this will just involve the pre-entries and the also eligible. So here we go. So this is the Distaff, and as I noted in the intro, these fields now include all the pre-entries, and if there are also eligibles, of course, we'll include them in our analysis as well. But you can see here it's a fairly small field in comparison to some of the others, and I don't even know if they filled it out completely. But it's definitely an interesting field, to be sure. First ones we're going to look at are those that ran in the Zenyatta Stakes, and that is at Santa Anita. So again, we want to pay particular attention to those California horses because of their familiarity with the track. Adair Manor has been a really solid performer out on the West Coast and trained by Bob Baffert. That usually isn't much of a surprise. Probably going to be on the front end and just won the Zenyatta Stakes. And secondly, we have Desert Dawn, and as we noted previously, this one is dual entered in the filly and mare sprint as well, I believe. So this is the kind of horse that could come out of the woodwork. She's in pretty decent form coming into the Breeders' Cup, and may just fly under the radar a little bit. You got Phil D'Amato and Umberto Rispoli. And particularly in this race that's so wide open, this is one we definitely want to pay attention to. So let's take a look at the Zenyatta Stakes and see how that worked out. Okay, so here's the Zenyatta Stakes, and as you can see, it's an extremely small field. Not going to be hard to spot the contestants.
And they're off in the
and you see Adair Manor number 1, right to the lead as expected, and Desert Dawn is number 3.
And now Microshare is hustled up to try and put some pressure on Adair Manor. But it's Adair Manor who's a little bit quicker than Microshare into the first turn. They're followed by Desert Dawn, and Window Shopping is fourth and fourth.
As I mentioned earlier, these small fields, it's kind of hard to... a lot of horses are taken, especially if they're a late runner, are taken out of their running style, taken out of their game. Clariere's been suffering through that this year, and we'll talk about that a little later when we cover her. But something to keep in mind when you do look at these small fields. Really, I think they're kind of hard to use as a gauge, but this is what we have, so we have to.
Adair Manor left alone on the front end, coming to the half-mile pole with a 3-length advantage. Desert Dawn along the inside, Window Shopping, and in between those two, Microshare.
You see Adair Manor loose-reined, pretty easy in hand.
It's been all Adair Manor.
Not much to worry about.
Herself in front by 2.5 lengths. Microshare, Desert Dawn, and Window Shopping heading to the
reasonable fractions.
Adair Manor,
you see Desert Dawn's going to try to come get her, but he looks back. Once they look back like that, you know they got tons of horse, nothing to worry about.
Coming to the 8th pole. Hernandez sitting still on Adair Manor, galloping through the stretch.
He's a statue aboard Adair Manor, not even going to the whip, completely handridden.
This will be her 5th straight win and 4th
total class of the field.
Adair Manor trots in by 5 lengths.
And you see Desert Dawn, they kind of eased her up because there was no chance of catching Adair Manor. So, kind of hard to use this one as a reference point, but it's what we have. Next couple we'll talk about ran in the Spinster Stakes over at Belmont at the Big A, I believe. And the first is Idiomatic, and this was kind of the now horse in the Distaff division. He kind of came on the scene late this summer, but has not disappointed. I wasn't sure that this one had the class to beat some of the better in the division, but proved me wrong. And is looking pretty good right now. You see 10 out of 11 starts in the money. So this one is definitely a competitor and had a nice win in the Spinster Stakes, and we'll take a look at that in a second. Second is La Davida, a Chilean import who's been over here for a little while, trained by Nacho Correas. And you see this one's had quite a few starts, and 18 out of 24 in the money, and got a second in the Spinster. And this one is always kind of one of those that seems to, it's kind of like the cavalry in old Western movies. You know, they come charging in, but they're always a little late. But this one does have some ability. And in this kind of race, this is one that can sort of fly under the radar, particularly since we have so much speed. So let's take a look at the Spinster Stakes. And I stand corrected. The Juddmonte Spinster was run at Keeneland. Should have known that. Sorry about the confusion. And here's the field. Field of 6.
And they're off in the Juddmonte
You see
Spinster.
Idiomatic is number 2 in the
There's
Juddmonte
Silks.
Silks.
Outside. There's Idiomatic from the inside, and Idiomatic a step quicker. Now moves up for the lead as they head down to the first turn. 63 Caliber will go second. Malloy now third up on the outside. Bellamore outward from the rail in fourth. Nest is down toward the inside in fifth position. Leda Vita right alongside her.
And Leda Vita
sixth and
towards
last,
the
5
rear.
lengths off the lead.
I was a little
Idiomatic
surprised to
shows
see
the way.
Nest quite so
Idiomatic
far
on
back,
top here
but
early by 2 lengths, heading off
lately
the
we
first
haven't
turn
been able to
onto
figure
the
out what's
backstretch.
going on with her.
63 Caliber is next. Malloy alongside that one.
She's not even going to run in the Distaff now, so who
9
knows?
seconds further back. Bellamore toward the outside is in the fourth position. Nest.
See
is
Idiomatic
fifth on her
going along
inside.
nice
Now
and
Nest
easy.
moves up and takes
Really
over
not
the
a lot
fourth
of
position.
pressure.
Still 5 lengths
Soft
off the
fractions.
lead. Leda Vita
No
trails
race
with
to
one
lose
the
at this
backstretch
point.
and Idiomatic the leader. Idiomatic on top, opens up by 3 lengths as they
So
head
they're
for the
gonna try
fourth
to come
turn.
get her a little
63
bit.
Caliber is second. Malloy and Bellamore stack up to her outside. Then Nest and Leda Vita. They're bunching behind the leader now. 48.31 seconds the time for the first half mile. Idiomatic the leader by a length and a half. Onto the far
Leda
turn.
Vita's
by 2
gonna
lengths
wait
once
out a
again.
little bit.
Malloy is second by a neck. Bellamore third on her outside. Leda Vita.
See, they
angles
made that
wide
early
midway on the turn
preemptive
and
strike
fourth.
there, and
Nest is fifth. And
Idiomatic
she is still
just
some 8
took a
lengths
notch off
the
and
lead.
right back
63
out to where
Caliber
she
last.
was. I mean,
Idiomatic the leader. Just
looks like
over
she's
a quarter
toying
mile
with
to
the
go.
field almost.
Idiomatic turns for
Here
home.
comes
Leads
Nest.
it by 4 lengths to Bellamore.
Leda
Second,
Vita's
Leda
gonna make a
Vita
charge.
is in third
Tip
position,
out.
and Idiomatic leads. Nest is fourth, far outside, and still 7 from the front. Final furlong of the Juddmonte Spinster. Idiomatic, a 5-length advantage. Bellamore, Leda Vita, then Nest in fourth. Idiomatic in front. 16th to go in the Juddmonte colors.
And you see, it's for Leda Vita, it's kind of a suck-up close.
Idiomatic to win the Grade 1
Clunk up for second,
Juddmonte
but
Spinster.
you know, ran okay,
Leda Vita was
and
home second.
with
Bellamore was
a
third.
maybe a little
Nest
more
was fourth.
favorable pace
63
scenario,
Caliber fifth. Malloy
could have a
was sixth.
puncher's
The time
chance.
For the mile and an eighth over a fast main
But
track at
Idiomatic
Keeneland,
looks
1 minute
awful tough to beat
39.82
so far.
seconds.
Next two we're going to look at ran in the Cotillion Stakes at Parks. First is Pretty Mischievous, and this one's has to be considered, I think, the leading 3-year-old. Just has won short, won long, all at the Grade 1 level. The Kentucky Oaks being the most notable. I think the Cotillion was a tune-up for the Breeders' Cup. I don't know that she was cranked up completely, but did run a solid race, and this is a really hard race to gauge, but given her class level, and she is from the La Troyenne female family, which is about as classy as you get, Family 1X. Brendan Walsh, Tyler Gaffleone, awesome combination all year, and I think you'd have to consider Pretty Mischievous one of the prime contenders in this race. And then you've got Hoosier Philly, and this is kind of the opposite end of the spectrum. Came into the 3-year-old year with an awful lot of promise, and we've talked about her because she's also entered in the sprint. Tom Amos, nice trainer, good guy. Johnny Velasquez, Hall of Famer, but this one just can't find a race shape that works for her, and she's just disappointed all year. Likes to be on the front end around 2 turns, but you got Idiomatic there, and you got a couple, and Adair Manor. She's really up against it. I wouldn't even be surprised if they switch her over to the Philly and Mare Sprint, because I just think this is a very difficult scenario for Hoosier Philly, but did run okay in the Cotillion in the slop at Parks, and lost to a front runner there in Ceiling Crusher. So this one I think is got it awful tough. But let's take a look at the Cotillion and see what happened. So here's the Cotillion Stakes, and you can see Pretty Mischievous is number 3, and Hoosier Philly is number 4. And it was in the slop. You see they both kind of break side by side. Hoosier Philly a little more keen to get to the lead. They got Defined Purpose right next door.
Hoosier Philly to her outside, Defining Purpose being fan bit wide, Majestic up with the pace today. Then back to a
And
moderate.
Ceiling Crusher just got off to a fairly easy lead. Got a little token pressure from Majestic Creed. You see Pretty Mischievous content to be towards the back. And Hoosier Philly probably would have taken the lead, I think, if it was available, but just decided to rate. And going to try to get up there and pressure a little more, not let Ceiling Crusher get away. Problem is, they just weren't able to press enough that where she couldn't just walk home. You see Pretty Mischievous getting a little more interested in what's going on, moving up. You see Hoosier Philly here trying to make a move, but ultimately what it comes down to is just not enough horse to make it happen. And just can't get to Ceiling Crusher. And you see Pretty Mischievous making a better effort. It's really hard to gauge this 3-year-old class, how good it is. But they've been so mediocre all year. But the older horses, you know, they're not great either. So that's what makes this kind of a tough race. You see the 5 making a big move as well. And Pretty Mischievous just couldn't quite get to Ceiling Crusher, but I'd consider that to be a good tune-up for the Distaff. Then it'll be a question of whether she's good enough in that race to win it. Hoosier Philly, can't just didn't see enough there. Next we'll talk about is a really nice horse that you gotta like, Clairiere, 5-year-old, just keeps trucking right along, trained by Steve Askerson. This one has had a better year than it looks like. The last couple of races I know have been a little disappointing, but tactically she has been at a major disadvantage in that she has had to run outside of her comfort zone, given small fields and or slow pace. When she has pace to run to, she's awful tough to beat. She's got a huge closing kick. We know this, that we witnessed by the Phipps, where she took down Secret Oath a while ago. And we're going to look at the personal ensign to give you an idea of the kind of struggles that Clairiere has had. I don't think she's in bad form. It's just the race shapes haven't really been to her liking. The Shoe V against Nest. Nest had it all her way, being on the front end. So let's look at the personal ensign. And I don't think we're going to see that type of scenario in the Distaff, but it is idiomatic again, so we may. So let's see if we can get a little bit of a frame of reference on the form Clairiere has prior to the Distaff. So we're going to look at the personal ensign, and Clairiere is in the Stone Street Silks, the gold with the maroon V. This is back at Saratoga, so it has been a while since Clairiere has run. And it was in the slop that day, so doubt we'll get that on Breeders' Cup. You see we go idiomatic, sharp right to the lead, and you see Nest wants to be a little more forwardly placed this time, and you got Clairiere customarily at the back. And Secret Oath right in the middle there. So this was a pretty good field. And you know, the fact that maybe Nesta couldn't put a little more pressure on Idiomatic kind of made things easier for her, I think. You see, he got off the soft fractions, and they're just kind of letting her walk along. And as we found out with Idiomatic class-wise, that's just what the doctor ordered, and you're not going to beat her without putting some pressure on her. We still haven't seen it yet.
Then Secret Oath in fourth along the inside.
You see Clairiere at the back.
38 and 4/5 seconds. 63 caliber.
Might have been a different race if Ness had been able to put some more pressure on Idiomatic on the front end. Secret Oath tends to run mid-pack. I wouldn't expect her to do that, and we know what Clairiere wants to do. So you see the fractions are really soft here. It's going to be awful tough for Clairiere to win this at this stage.
Clairiere underway on the outside of 63 caliber. They're coming toward the quarter
But she's
pole.
making her move.
6 furlongs in, 112 and 3. And it's
See, Nest has the rail if she's good enough.
Nest coming to her on the outside.
Or Secret Oath, I should say.
Inside is Secret Oath. They're coming toward the 8th pole. Idiomatic digging in. On the inside, Secret Oath running a big race. Nest Clariere is too far back. A 16th
You
to
see,
run.
Clariere
And
just
Idiomatic has a
not enough pace to
two-length
run
lead.
to.
Nest is fully
Totally out of her
extended, but not
running
coming
style.
close to Idiomatic.
Secret Oath
A
ran a
huge
huge one, though.
performance all the way in the personal ensign.
She's going to be tough to
Secret
beat.
Oath
She keeps that up, boy, I
finished
tell you.
Nest for second. It was a long way back to Malloy.
Next two, we're going to talk about running the Beldame Stakes at Belmont at the Big A just earlier this month. First is Randomized, who won the race. Sterling Connections, Chad Brown, and Brad Ortiz, Clairvaux Stables. They just owned Saratoga this summer, as they often do. This one kind of came on the scene a little late, but the longer distances definitely seem to be appealing to this one. Has been on the lead and can also rate. I don't think it's imperative that this one has to have the lead, but will be up near it. And you've got quite a few in this Distaff race who want to do the same thing, like search results that we haven't got to yet. So I think it should be fairly contested on the front end. So we keep Randomized in mind. Second was Amor Ray, trained by Brad Coxon. To be honest, this one is just a perennial disappointment. We've been waiting for this one to break out for a while, and it just doesn't seem to ever happen. When you have a horse like this, when the class level rises, this is when usually they get left in the dust. However, is trained by Brad Cox, so we don't want to completely exclude just yet. So let's take a look at the Beldame, see how they did. So here's the Beldame that was run a couple weeks ago at Belmont at the Big A. And note the field size, not going to be hard to find our contestants here. And I'll just renew my objection. New York NYRA Racing Office. This is a graded stakes race, and we can't have more than 4 horses in it. Come on. Anyway, enough of that. Let's get on to the race. Not going to be hard to spot our players here. You see Randomized number 3 in the Clairvaux Silks, right to the lead, broke nice and sharp, and Amor Ray right behind in the blue and white stripes.
Nostalgic is on the outside, Amor Ray down towards the rail, and long shot riding pretty.
And again, Randomized I don't think needs the lead. I think this is just a case of you've got the best horse in the race, so why risk putting her into trouble? Just get her on the lead and let her run. Especially in a field size like this, much easier to control the pace, control the race. And you're getting some pressure, but just walking on the lead, 25, it's going to be easy to come home there. Unless one of them can put on some decent pressure. And like I said, Amor Ray just never seems to get there. Just seems to disappoint. Every time you think that you're going to get a good race out of her, you don't. And awful hard to trust.
The half, 49 seconds. Alabama winner Randomized shows the way here.
You see riding pretty.
On the outside of Nostalgic,
trying to make a move.
With Amor Ray down at the rail. So it is Randomized 3/4 of a length.
And that's really the move you wanted to see Amor Ray make, and it just doesn't happen.
Nostalgic is now the trailer in 4th. 3/4 went in 1:12 and 3 as they come for the top of the stretch. Randomized is the leader. The lead's a length and a half. Riding pretty. And Amor Ray looking to rally down.
You see, they just can't get to her. This is just a superior horse.
It is Randomized in front. Amor Ray
but
down on
the only thing you can say, are you going to get this type of scenario in the Breeders' Cup? No way. So we'll see how Randomized does when they ratchet up the class a little bit. But right here, probably couldn't be coming into the race in better form. We'll just see if she's good enough. Amor Ray, not so much. Search Results has been on the scene for a couple of years now, and another one trained by Chad Brown, Clairvaux Stables, Sterling Connections. We have seen when Search Results gets into Grade 1 company, she just seems to fall a little bit short. Always runs a good race. She's a hard knocker, but just doesn't seem to have that extra gear to pull down a Grade 1. She'll be one, probably a pace factor more than anything else, wanting to be up near the lead. And who knows, Chad Brown may just send her to try to soften up Idiomatic a little bit. But the Locust Grove was the last race that Search Results ran in, and it was a much softer field. And I remember remarking that if she can't beat this field, she's never going to win another race. But it did display, at the optimum what she can do. But we do have some reservations about moving up into Grade 1 company. So let's look at the Locust Grove. So here's the Locust Grove.
There.
Run at Churchill Downs.
And they're off. Good beginning
You
for
see search
Hidden
results,
Connection,
number
and
4,
search results is
right
sent
to the
on
lead.
for speed, right off the
Again,
mark as well. These two go 1-2 to that
doing
first
what a good
turn.
horse
Collins
should.
Pro comes through
Should
for the
get right to the
inside
lead,
to
control the
secure
race.
third with Misty Vale right there to
And as we know, search results can rate as well. The lead isn't imperative.
Search results who steps out to lead. Hidden Connection's going to stalk from second. Neither in a hurry so far. In behind them, it's Misty Vale with Pauline's Pearl. They're together third and fourth. Finny and Freddie 3 wide, racing up into fifth. Falcon at 4 wide, while sixth. And then it's Sullivan Angel down inside seventh. Misty Vale's in eighth. Amorier's at the
surprised
back
to see
in ninth.
Pauline's
It's a very
Pearl quite as
tight
forwardly
pack
placed.
behind a composed quarter in 24 and 1. Search results the
You see
leader
she's
down the back stretch.
on a
Brothers,
soft
5
lead.
furlongs to go. Hidden
Not gonna be a
Connection
problem.
Continues to stalk in second. They continue on 1-2. Now they open up a little bit. They're two
don't think
clear
they're worried
of
about
Misty
Hidden
Vale and
Connection too
Pauline's
much.
Pearl, who are together third and fourth. Half mile to go. Search results continues to
48,
fend off Hidden Connection.
pretty soft.
Who's coming with more pressure now, just a neck behind as they round the far turn. Search results well in hand with 3 furlongs to go. Hidden Connection continues to crank up the pressure.
They haven't even
Misty
asked her
Vale's
yet.
revving
She's
up
not
with a
worried.
3 wide bid. Pauline Pearl under pressure. Then it's Amorier who comes off the rail as they come for the top of the stretch. Hidden Connection and Search Results 1-2 off the turn. Search Results cut the corner and reclaims the lead and kicks
See, and
away.
you got
by
Amore
2.
in this
Search
one as
Results
well,
with
and,
1 furlong to go.
doing
Hidden
what
Connection fully
Amore
extended
does.
back in
It just
second.
disappoints.
Misty
Doesn't,
Vale
you
third, Pauline's Pearl
can't
fourth.
even expect a good
First
race
is
now.
Search Results with 100 yards to
See,
go,
not
and
even
she
asked,
returns
just
to winning ways
handwritten in.
to score by 3 lengths in the end. Hidden Connection
Doing what a
was
good
second,
horse does.
Misty Vale was third, and Pauline's Pearl was fourth.
Optimum scenario. Wet Paint is a horse who was very hot early on the Oaks Trail, winning those races at Oakland and the Slop, but has proven that can be just as effective on a fast track. Trained by Brad Cox and Godolphin. The thing that's interesting about Wet Paint is you might think of Wet Paint as a closer per se, but I remember in our pace study for the Oaks, we noticed that Wet Paint has sort of a one-pace style. So it looks like in the stretch she's turning up the heat, whereas it's really more the others are falling back or slowing down, as it were. So that type of running style may come in handy in the Distaff when you have so many early runners. And also, because she'll be a little more forwardly placed in, let's say, Clairiere, it may tactically give her a jump on Clairiere in the late runners. So Wet Paint is a really interesting horse coming into this race. I think it's a good scenario for her. Now, we're going to go back and take a look at the Alabama Stakes, where she was second to randomized as a prep for the Breeders' Cup. So let's take a look. So here's the Alabama Stakes
Goes in.
from August at
Here we go.
Saratoga.
And they're off.
You see
In the
randomized was
Alabama,
pretty quick
presented
to
by
get out to the
Inland
lead,
Sale.
and you've got
And
Wet Paint
randomized and
down on the
Defining
rail, number
Purpose
2.
will be 1-2 out of the gate. Sacred Wish comes away in third, immediately guided off the rail. Chocolate
Defining
Gelato
Purpose,
is foretext on the far outside.
Drafting.
Then it's Wet Paint.
Usually a
and
good
Julia
scenario for
Shining,
Defining Purpose
about
when the
6
pace
lengths
is
off the
moderate.
speed.
That seems
Fireline
to
was
allow
squeezed
her
a bit
to
at the start.
factor in races.
And moves
Anytime
up
the
to be
quickens
within
up,
4
it just
lengths of
doesn't
the
work.
pace at the
But
back of the field.
this wasn't a bad scenario.
And Gambling Girl will do her best running later on.
You see Wet Paint
It's
about
randomized
mid-pack,
that Joel
not
Rosario
exactly
setting
exerting
up for
pressure,
23 and
but
2 with the
lingering
open
and
quarter
waiting. And again, with that one-pace type of style, that might be the optimum position for the Distaff.
Closer today, she's fourth and 4 lengths off the speed. Then comes Julia Shining, who gets a little bit of a nudge between rivals. Grays on either side, Fireline and Taxed. Those 3 right across the track through a half.
So this was a pretty good field of
4/5
3-year-olds.
Chocolate
Don't know how
Gelato
good
has
this crop of
lost the
3-year-olds really is,
Gambling
but
Girl is underway. Sabra Tough
most of the
is
better
the
ones
trainer.
were in it. Sabra Tough, we'll talk about in
To
a
the
second.
half-mile pole. And it's randomized who's been there every step
Only thing
of
you
the
can say
way.
about Sabra Tough right now
Defining
really is that
Purpose,
Dallas
a length
Stewart's
and a
barn
half back
is
second.
pretty hot. So
Wet Paint's the last
coming into the
four to
Breeders'
make up.
Cup,
Taxed it
you
to
never
up
know.
outside
But
of her.
don't expect to
Wish
compete.
dropping out of it. 6 furlongs in 1:12 and 1. And
You see,
randomized.
Randomized was just able to
Confronted by
make it nice and
defining
easy,
purpose.
and
Wet paint still
really
with
no
plenty of
chance for
work to do.
defining purpose
And
to go
randomized
get her
turns for
because
home,
he's got
very
plenty
wide,
of
but
horse
still in
left.
front. Wet paint will
But
have
you
to
see
come
Wet
through
Paint,
along
you know,
the
saved
inside.
ground
But it's
and was
randomized,
able to
still
close in a
waiting
little
for the
bit. Not
furlong
going to
left
have
to go.
enough
And she has a
because
3-leg
Randomized,
lead.
really, they
Wet
didn't
Paint
pressure
is
enough,
trying her
and
best.
you
And
can
so
see
is defining purpose. But today's
she's
the
working a
day
little bit,
for
but there's plenty of horse
Randomized.
there.
It's her coming out party in the Alabama, presented by Keeneland Sales. She made every
Wet Paint,
hole a
pretty good
winning
second.
one.
And I think the scenario, as I mentioned, might be better in the Distaff for Wet Paint, so we'll want to keep an eye on her. Last one we'll talk about is Sabra Tough, and as I mentioned, I don't consider this one to be competitive in this race whatsoever. You know, it hasn't. They seem to think that there's something there, much like Il Miracolo, I guess, earlier in the year. You know, and Il Miracolo has turned out to be a halfway decent horse, but Sabra Tough just doesn't seem to factor, and they keep throwing her in graded stakes, and it's just not working. Had a decent 2-year-old campaign, showed a little bit of promise, and just hasn't realized it. And so the only thing you could say right now is Dallas Stewart's barn is going really well at Keeneland right now, and he has the potential to throw in a bomb. But if I was to use Sabra Tough, I got to have like 60 to 1 or higher to use. Other than that, if you can't get value on this horse, then I wouldn't consider using. So if we cull from the existing entrants for the Distaff, these are our top prospects, I think. Adair Manor, mainly because of as the home advantage at Santa Anita, I think is going to have a tough task wiring this field, but that's what she's going to try to do. There's a lot of other early pace in the race, and given the fact that she's familiar with Santa Anita and it's the home track, and Bob Baffert trains, can't exclude. So we'll consider. Clairiere will have pace to run to, I believe, in this race. The question is whether that she's will be good enough. She's a stone closer. It's got plenty of class, and I think it's entirely possible that she could have a big race. Desert Dawn and Leda Vida I'm throwing in here as the bomb squad. I think either one of them have the potential to be a huge long shot at a really nice price. I don't consider them to be win candidates per se, but ones that you got to get a monster price on that could likely finish under for the exotics. Idiomatic, you'd have to like a lot in this race. Just seems to be getting better and better at just the right time. We know what she wants to do. The question is if they can put enough pressure on her to stop her from wiring this field. You do have horses in here who will be able to do that, and we'll just have to see how Idiomatic handles it. Pretty Mischievous is probably the classiest 3-year-old in what is, frankly, a pretty mediocre group. But this one has shown some nice versatility this year, going short, going long, and I think is one that will need another step forward, in my opinion, to win, but I think is one that we certainly can't exclude. Randomized is pretty interesting to me because she does have the ability to rate. I don't think she absolutely has to have the lead, and that may come in handy, letting horses like Search Results and Idiomatic and Adair Manor battle it out. Randomized could be just off their throat latch and poised to jump and get the rush on some of the others who want to run late. So Randomized to me is pretty interesting. Search Results, this might be a field where you don't have, aside from, Clairiere and Idiomatic, you don't have a lot of true Grade 1 stakes horses. And so maybe this is not the classiest Distaff, and if that's the case, then Search Results maybe has a better shot here than usual. Will be pressing the pace, and, she always fires every time. So if by chance they can get Idiomatic to softened up, Search Results might be right there and has a chance. Wet Paint, I think, is very intriguing in this race, given that one-paced running style will just keep going when the others are starting to back up. If things get a little hot on the front end, as we saw in the Alabama, and as we have seen as the year has progressed, Wet Paint is getting closer to the lead. That, to me, shows improvement. And I think with her running style, again, will be right there and maybe gets the jump on some of the later runners. So to me, Wet Paint is a pretty intriguing horse. But on paper right now, from what we've seen, I think Idiomatic is likely the horse to beat. So that's the Distaff, a really contentious race, I think. It's awful hard to put your finger on who the primary win candidate is. So a deeper dive will definitely be required, and we'll certainly do that. I hope this analysis helps you with your own deep dive and strategy. We will have more postings concerning the rest of the divisions for the Breeders' Cup, so be on the lookout for those. And then next week we'll start our deep dive. We'll handicap, look at the numbers a little more specifically, and we may have some special broadcasts as well, so be on the lookout for those. If you do like what you see here, of course, please like and subscribe. And thanks so much to those of you who have recently signed on. Really appreciate the support, and we'll be talking to you in the very near future. And until then, be well.